Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily English Lab podcast. 30 days ago, I made a decision that completely changed my relationship with English. I committed to speaking only English for an entire month. No switching to my native language even when it was easier. No translating in my head. Just pure, immersive English for 30 straight days. And something incredible happened. By day 7, I started dreaming in English. By day 15, I stopped translating in my head completely. By day 30, my brain had literally rewired itself to think in English first, not my native language. But it wasn't all smooth. I had moments of frustration, embarrassment, and genuine struggle. There were days I wanted to quit. But I pushed through, and the results were so dramatic that I need to share exactly what happened, what worked, what didn't, and how you can do this experiment yourself. In the next 25 minutes, I'm going to walk you through my entire 30-day journey, the surprising changes that happened to my brain, and the exact strategies that made this work. Ready to see what 30 days of English immersion can do? Let's dive into the experiment. Hey everyone, welcome back once again to the Daily English Lab podcast. I'm your English coach, and today I'm sharing something deeply personal, my 30-day English-only experiment and the profound changes it created in my brain and my fluency. So let me tell you why I did this. Despite teaching English for years, I noticed I still defaulted to my native language in my personal life. When I talked to myself, when I made shopping lists, when I thought through problems, I used my native language. And I realized this was holding me back from true fluency. Real fluency means thinking in English, not translating from another language. Scientists call this language dominance switching, and research shows that intensive immersion can literally rewire your brain's language processing centers. But I wanted to test this myself, document the process, and see what actually happens when you force your brain to operate in English 24/7 for a full month. Today, I'm going to share my journey broken into 5 key phases. First, the brutal first week where everything felt unnatural and exhausting. Second, the breakthrough around day 10 when thinking in English started to click. Third, the unexpected emotional and social challenges. Fourth, the dramatic improvements in fluency and confidence. And fifth, the lasting changes that remained even after the experiment ended. This is more than just my story. This is a roadmap for anyone who wants to accelerate their English learning through immersion, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country. Before we start, tell me in the comments, have you ever tried an immersion challenge, or does the idea terrify you? Let me know where you're at. And if you're curious about what intensive English immersion can actually do to your brain, hit that subscribe button and like this video. I'm going to be completely honest about both the wins and the struggles. All right, let's walk through my 30-day English transformation. The first week of my English-only experiment was brutal. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. My brain fought me every single step of the way because I was asking it to abandon decades of linguistic habits overnight. Understanding that the first week is the hardest is crucial because this is when most people quit. If you don't expect the struggle, you'll interpret difficulty as failure. But struggle is actually the sign that your brain is working hard to adapt. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The biggest mistake people make is expecting immediate comfort and fluency. They try an immersion challenge, find it exhausting and unnatural, and quit after 3 days thinking, this isn't working. Wrong. Discomfort means it is working. Your brain is reorganizing itself, and that process is inherently uncomfortable. Let me tell you what my first week actually looked like, unfiltered. Day 1, pure excitement. I woke up and narrated my morning routine in English. I'm brushing my teeth. Now I'm making coffee. Today is going to be great. It felt fun and novel. I thought, this will be easy. Day 2, reality hit. I tried to think through a complex work problem in English, and my brain just froze. I kept reaching for words in my native language, catching myself, then struggling to find the English equivalent. A task that normally took 10 minutes took 30 because I was thinking so slowly. Day 3 through 5, mental exhaustion. By evening, each day, I had a headache from the cognitive load. Thinking in a non-dominant language is like running with ankle weights. You can do it, but it's exhausting. I found myself avoiding complex thoughts because they were too hard in English. Day 6, the temptation to quit was strong. I was making dinner and burned the food because I was so focused on narrating what I was doing in English that I stopped paying attention to the actual cooking. I thought, this is ridiculous. Why am I making my life harder? Day 7, a tiny breakthrough. I woke up from a dream where someone was speaking English to me, and I responded in English without thinking about it. It was the first sign my brain was starting to accept English as normal, not foreign. The physical and mental symptoms were real. Mental fatigue by 6 p.m. every day, slight headaches from concentration, frustration when I couldn't express complex thoughts, slower processing speed for everything, social awkwardness because I was focused on language, not content. If you're going to try this, prepare for week 1 difficulty. Right now, make a list of 3 things. First, when are you most likely to want to quit? Probably when tired or frustrated. Second, what will you tell yourself to keep going? Third, who can you tell about this challenge for accountability?
Think of week 1 like starting at the gym. The first week, your muscles are sore, you're tired, you want to quit. But soreness means you're building strength. Similarly, mental exhaustion in week 1 means you're building new neural pathways. Embrace the discomfort as evidence of growth. On day 4, I had a phone call with a family member who doesn't speak English. They called unexpectedly, and I had to break my English-only rule because it was an emergency. After the call, I felt like I'd failed the challenge. But then I realized something important. My brain had become so accustomed to English mode that switching back to my native language felt slightly awkward, like shifting gears in a car. That's when I knew the experiment was already working, even though it was only day 4. Week 1 question. If you tried speaking only English for a week, what do you think would be your biggest challenge? Thinking complex thoughts? Talking to yourself? Social situations? Let me know in the comments. Week 1 was the struggle phase, but something shifted dramatically around day 10. Suddenly, thinking in English stopped feeling like work and started feeling natural. That breakthrough is exactly what we're covering next. Between days 10 and 15, something incredible happened. My brain stopped resisting English and started accepting it as the default language. This is the phase where the struggle transforms into flow. This breakthrough phase is why the 30-day commitment is crucial. Most people quit before reaching this point, but if you push through the first brutal week, the breakthrough around day 10 makes everything worth it. This is when you actually feel your brain changing. The mistake is assuming linear progress. Some people expect to feel a little better each day. That's not how it works. Progress is more like stairs than a ramp. You struggle for days with no noticeable improvement, then suddenly, boom, a big jump forward. If you expect steady linear improvement, you'll get discouraged. Here's what the breakthrough phase felt like for me. Day 10. I was working on a project and realized I'd been thinking through the problem in English for 20 minutes without noticing. I didn't decide to think in English, my brain just automatically went there. It was the first time English felt easier than translating. Day 11. I caught myself having an internal argument with myself in English. Not just simple thoughts, but a full internal debate about whether to go to the gym or stay home. You should go, you'll feel better. But you're tired, rest is important too. You always say that, just go for 30 minutes. This complex internal dialogue was happening entirely in English, naturally. Day 12. I was watching a movie without subtitles and understood probably 75% without any effort. Before the experiment, I would have understood maybe 50% and felt exhausted from concentration. Now comprehension felt effortless because my brain wasn't translating, it was processing English directly. Day 13. A moment of pure joy. I made a joke in English and it was actually funny. Not a translated joke from my language, but a joke I created in English using English humor patterns. My friend laughed, and I realized I was starting to think creatively in English, not just functionally. Day 14, I noticed my accent was changing. I started using more natural intonation and rhythm without consciously trying. When you think in English, your mouth produces English more naturally. The connection between thought and speech was becoming seamless. Day 15, I had a work presentation entirely in English, and for the first time ever, I didn't pre-script it. I just spoke naturally, found words as I went, adjusted on the fly. I had reached a level of spontaneous fluency I'd never experienced before. The changes I noticed during this phase? Automatic English thinking without decision or effort, faster word retrieval, natural idioms and expressions appearing in my speech, reduced mental fatigue, increased confidence, starting to feel when English sounded right versus wrong. This breakthrough happens because your brain creates new neural pathways. Think about it right now. Can you notice moments where English comes to you first instead of your native language? These moments are your brain changing. Recognize them and celebrate them. The breakthrough phase is like riding a bike. At first you wobble, you fall, you need training wheels. But then suddenly, balance clicks. You're not thinking about balance, you're just riding. Similarly, thinking in English stops being a conscious effort and becomes automatic. Trust the process. Day 12 was magical for me. I was cooking dinner, listening to an English podcast, thinking about what to make the next day, and planning my week. All of these mental processes were happening in English simultaneously, without any conscious effort. I literally stopped and laughed because I realized my brain had fully switched to English mode. The language that felt foreign 10 days ago now felt native. That's when I knew this experiment was succeeding beyond my expectations. Breakthrough question. Have you ever experienced a moment where English suddenly felt natural instead of difficult? Or are you still waiting for that moment? Share in the comments what your experience has been. The breakthrough was amazing, but the journey wasn't over. The second half of the month brought unexpected emotional and social challenges that taught me things about language and identity I never anticipated. That's what we're exploring next. The third phase, from day 16 to 22, brought challenges I didn't expect: emotional and social difficulties. Language is deeply tied to identity, and when you change your linguistic behavior, it affects how you relate to yourself and others. Nobody talks about the emotional side of intensive language immersion, but it's real and important. Understanding these challenges prepares you so you don't interpret them as personal failure. Language switching affects your personality, your relationships, and your sense of self. The mistake is thinking language learning is purely cognitive. It's not. Language is emotional, social, and cultural. When you switch to English only, you're not just changing words, you're changing how you express yourself, how you connect with others, and even how you process emotions. Here are the unexpected emotional challenges I faced. Challenge 1. Emotional expression limitation. Around day 17, I had a frustrating day at work. Normally, I would vent to myself in my native language using specific expressions that perfectly capture my frustration. But in English, I struggled to find words that carried the same emotional weight. I felt like I couldn't fully express my feelings, which was isolating. For example, in my language, there's a phrase that captures a specific type of frustration with bureaucracy. English has red tape, but it doesn't hit the same emotionally. I felt like I was expressing myself at 70% capacity. Challenge 2. Social identity shift. People close to me noticed I was different. My personality in English is slightly different from my personality in my native language. In my language, I'm more sarcastic and use more wordplay. In English, I'm more direct and sincere. Friends commented that I seemed different or more serious. It was unsettling. Example, a friend jokingly said, "Who are you? You sound like a different person." They meant it lightly, but it hit hard. Was I losing part of myself by committing to English? Challenge 3. Cultural disconnect. By day 20, I felt disconnected from my cultural roots. Language carries culture. When you stop using your native language, you also step away from cultural references, humor, and ways of thinking. I started feeling like I was between two worlds, not fully belonging to either. Example, I saw a meme in my native language that was hilarious, but I couldn't fully enjoy it because I was in English mode. The cognitive dissonance was strange. Challenge 4. Relationship strain. Some relationships became strained. People who only speak my native language felt like I was distancing myself. One family member said, "Why are you doing this? Are you trying to become American?" They saw my English-only challenge as rejection of my heritage. Example, I had to explain that this was a learning experiment, not cultural abandonment. But the tension was real. Challenge 5. Emotional fatigue. Beyond mental fatigue, I experienced emotional fatigue from constantly monitoring my language and feeling like I couldn't fully be myself. By day 22, I felt emotionally drained. How I handled these challenges? Journaled about emotions in English to process them. Reminded myself this was temporary and experimental. Talked to other bilingual people who understood. Gave myself permission to feel weird about the process. Recognized that emotional expression would improve with time. If you do this experiment, prepare for emotional complexity. Right now, think about what emotions are hardest for you to express in English. Anger, sadness, joy, sarcasm. Identify these before starting so you're not blindsided. Remember, feeling emotionally limited in English is temporary. Bilingual people eventually develop full emotional range in both languages, but it takes time. Early emotional awkwardness doesn't mean English is wrong for you. It means you're in transition. Honor the discomfort as part of growth. Day 20 was my emotional low point. I had a disagreement with a friend, and I wanted to explain my perspective with the nuance and depth I could access in my native language, but I was committed to English only, and the English words felt clumsy and inadequate. I ended up crying from frustration, not because of the disagreement, but because I felt linguistically trapped. That night, I almost quit the experiment. But I reminded myself, I'm expanding, not limiting myself. Learning to express emotions in English would make me more capable, not less. That shift in perspective saved the experiment. Emotional question. Do you feel like a different person when you speak English versus your native language? Does your personality change? I'm genuinely curious if others experience this too. Comment below. The emotional challenges were real, but pushing through them led to the most dramatic phase, days 23 to 30, where the improvements in fluency and confidence were so significant that I barely recognized my own English ability.
The final week, days 23 through 30, was the payoff. All the struggle, discomfort, and emotional challenges culminated in dramatic, measurable improvements in fluency, confidence, and naturalness that exceeded my expectations. This final phase proves that intensive immersion works. The changes weren't subtle, they were obvious and lasting. If you can make it to day 23, the transformation becomes undeniable, which motivates continued practice even after the challenge ends. The mistake is stopping at 30 days and immediately reverting to native language dominance. The gains you make need to be maintained, or you'll slide backward. The 30-day challenge is the breakthrough, but continuation is how you solidify it. Here's what changed dramatically in the final week. Change 1. Spontaneous fluency. By day 25, I was speaking English with a fluency I'd never achieved before. Conversations flowed naturally. I wasn't searching for words, they just came. I could express complex ideas without hesitation. Example: I had a job interview entirely in English. Normally, I would over-prepare and script responses. This time, I just had a natural conversation. The interviewer commented that my English was impressively fluent. I got the job. Change 2. Accent improvement. People started asking where I was from, thinking I might be a native speaker or a very long-term resident. My accent hadn't become perfect, but the rhythm, intonation, and natural speech patterns had improved dramatically. Example: a native speaker said, "Wait, you're not American? Your accent is so good." This would never have happened before the experiment. Change 3. Automatic thinking. By day 27, I realized I hadn't thought in my native language for 3 full days without even noticing. English had become my default mental language without conscious decision. Example: I did mental math in English, like 25 times 4 is 100. I made grocery lists in English. I solved problems in English. My native language became the foreign one temporarily. Change 4. Cultural understanding. I started understanding English humor, idioms, and cultural references intuitively. Things that used to confuse me now made sense because I was thinking within the English cultural framework. Example: I watched a British comedy show and understood the humor in real time, laughing at the same moments as native speakers. Before, I would have needed explanations. Change 5. Confidence transformation. My confidence speaking English skyrocketed. I stopped second-guessing myself, stopped fearing mistakes, stopped feeling inferior to native speakers. I felt like an English speaker, not a learner. Example: in a work meeting with Americans and British colleagues, I contributed ideas confidently, cracked a joke that landed well, and felt completely comfortable. Previously, I would have been nervous and quiet. Change 6. Speed and efficiency. My processing speed in English became nearly as fast as in my native language. I could watch shows at normal speed, read quickly, and respond in conversations without delay. Measurable improvements. Vocabulary recall speed increased by at least 50%. Conversation response time decreased dramatically. Listening comprehension increased from maybe 70% to 90%. Speaking confidence rated myself 9 out of 10 versus previous 5 out of 10. Daily headaches completely disappeared. Imagine doing this experiment yourself. Visualize day 30. How would you feel if you could think in English naturally, speak confidently, and understand almost everything? Hold that vision. That's what this experiment can do. It's possible, and it's within your reach. The transformation phase feels like upgrading from a bicycle to a motorcycle. You're still traveling, but suddenly you're faster, smoother, more confident. The hard work of days 1 through 22 is the price you pay for the effortless power of days 23 through 30. Every difficult moment was an investment in this transformation. Day 30 was surreal. I woke up, went through my entire day, worked, socialized, thought, problem solved, and didn't speak or think in my native language once until bedtime. And it wasn't hard. It was natural. That night, I reflected on where I started 30 days earlier. I had transformed from someone who thought in one language and translated to English to someone who naturally thought in English. The person I was on day 1 felt like a stranger. I had unlocked a new version of myself. Transformation question. If you could achieve this level of English fluency in 30 days, would you be willing to do the uncomfortable work required? What would that transformation be worth to you? Share your thoughts in the comments.
Day 30 marked the end of the formal experiment, but the journey didn't stop there. What happened after Day 30 taught me crucial lessons about maintaining progress and continuing growth. That's what we're covering next.
After completing the 30-day experiment, I didn't immediately revert to my native language dominance. But I did need to figure out how to maintain gains while reintegrating my native language into daily life. The post-experiment phase determines whether your progress sticks or fades. Many people do challenges, see great results, then lose them within weeks by abandoning the new habits. Understanding how to maintain progress is as important as the initial breakthrough. The mistake is thinking the experiment ends at day 30 and you can go back to old habits. You can't. Your brain has changed, but the changes need reinforcement. If you immediately default back to native language dominance, you'll lose much of what you gained. Here's what happened after the experiment ended. Week 5, days 31 to 37. I consciously returned to bilingual mode, using my native language with family and friends, but maintaining English for work, entertainment, and internal monologue. This felt balanced and sustainable. Result: I maintained about 80% of my English gains while reconnecting with my native language. Week 6, days 38 to 44. I noticed that my native language had actually improved too. Because I'd been processing complex thoughts in English, I came back to my native language with new vocabulary and expressions I'd translated mentally. Bilingualism had enhanced both languages. Result: total linguistic capacity increased, not just English. Week 7, days 45 to 51. I experimented with English days and native language days rather than forcing one or the other. Some days were full English, others were bilingual, others primarily native language. Result: flexibility without losing progress. Week 8, days 52 to 58. English had become a permanent part of my identity. Even when speaking my native language, I often inserted English words or phrases because they expressed ideas better. Code switching became natural. Result: true bilingualism emerged. Lasting changes 3 months later. I still dream in English frequently. My default thinking language depends on context. Work equals English, family equals native language. My accent and fluency maintained improvements. Confidence speaking English remained high. I no longer fear English-only situations. My brain can switch between languages effortlessly. What I do now to maintain progress? Consume at least 1 hour of English content daily. Podcasts, shows, articles. Keep my internal monologue in English when alone. Participate in English-speaking communities online. Set my devices and apps to English. Pursue hobbies through English. Cooking videos, fitness content. Think about your maintenance plan right now, even before starting the experiment. How will you keep English active in your life after an intensive period? Plan this now so you don't lose progress later. Think of language maintenance like physical fitness. You can do an intensive 30-day workout program and see great results, but if you stop exercising completely afterward, you'll lose the gains. You need ongoing maintenance, just less intensive than the initial challenge. Same with language. Keep English active, just not as obsessively as during the experiment. 3 months after my experiment, I attended an international conference where English was the working language. I spent 3 days speaking exclusively English with people from 15 countries. Not once did I feel nervous, inadequate, or lost. I contributed in discussions, made jokes, connected with people naturally. Colleagues assumed I'd lived in an English-speaking country for years. When I told them about my 30-day experiment, they were shocked. That conference was proof that the experiment had created permanent change, not temporary improvement. The investment paid off long-term. Final question for this section. If you completed a 30-day English-only challenge, what would your maintenance plan be? How would you keep English active in your life? Share your ideas in the comments. You now know my complete 30-day journey and beyond. But before we finish, I need to tell you about 3 critical mistakes that will sabotage your experiment if you're not careful. If you decide to try this 30-day English-only experiment, avoid these 3 critical mistakes that cause most people to fail. Mistake number 1,
all-or-nothing perfectionism. Many people start this challenge and immediately break the rule on day 1 or 2. Maybe they need to speak their native language for an emergency, or they accidentally slip up. Then they think, I failed, I might as well quit. This perfectionism destroys the experiment before it can work. The truth is, some native language use is inevitable. The goal is maximum English immersion, not absolute perfection. If you slip up, acknowledge it and immediately return to English. Don't let one moment of native language use justify quitting entirely. Mistake number 2, no support system or accountability. Trying to do this alone in secret is incredibly difficult. Without accountability, it's too easy to quit when things get hard. Tell people about your challenge. Find an accountability partner doing the same thing. Join online communities of language learners. Document your progress publicly on social media. Support and accountability dramatically increase your chances of completion.
Mistake number 3, not preparing your environment. You can't just declare, I'm speaking only English now, without preparing your environment. Change your phone to English. Change your computer to English. Queue up English content for entertainment. Join English-speaking online communities. Prepare English phrases for common daily situations. Have English resources ready for when you get stuck. Environmental preparation makes the experiment 50% easier. Don't skip this step. Let's quickly recap what happened during my 30-day English-only experiment and the key lessons. Week 1, days 1 to 7, the struggle phase. Mental exhaustion, frustration, temptation to quit, but also the first signs of change, including dreaming in English. Days 10 to 15, the breakthrough. Automatic English thinking began. Processing speed increased. Confidence grew. The hard work started paying off. Days 16 to 22, emotional and social challenges, identity questions, relationship complexities. But pushing through led to emotional maturity in English expression. Days 30-20-23, the transformation, dramatic fluency improvements, accent enhancement, spontaneous confidence, measurable gains that exceeded expectations. After day 30, lasting impact, maintaining 80% of gains, true bilingualism emerging, English becoming part of identity permanently. Key lessons: discomfort equals growth. The first week is the hardest. Breakthroughs come suddenly after days of no apparent progress. Emotional challenges are normal. 30 days can genuinely rewire your brain. If you want to accelerate your English learning more dramatically than any class or app can provide, this experiment works. You just heard my complete 30-day English-only experiment. The struggles, the breakthroughs, and the lasting transformation. This was one of the most challenging and rewarding things I've ever done for my English learning. Here's my challenge for you. Try it for just 7 days, not 30, just 7. See what happens. Comment below if you're willing to commit to 7 days of English only, and tag someone to do it with you for accountability. If this video inspired you to take your English learning to the next level through immersive practice, smash that like button and subscribe. Next week, I'm revealing the 5 English learning myths that are keeping you stuck at intermediate level. You don't want to miss that. Remember, your brain is capable of incredible adaptation. 30 days might seem long, but it's nothing compared to the years you've already spent learning English. This could be the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Stop studying English. Start living in English. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep immersing, keep pushing, and keep transforming your brain. Let's master English together, one intensive day at a time.